Okay, what we're going to start with today are what we call arithmetic operations. So arithmetic operations. Okay, and an operation, this one here, in maths, this just means the things that you do to numbers. Okay, so for example, times, plus, divide, and minus. Okay, so we're looking at these today. We're going to look at a few different ways that you can say this because this will be really important to you this year. So we'll start with sum. Okay, so the word sum is what you get when you add two things together. Or when you add things together, okay? It doesn't actually have to be two. Okay, so that's nice and straightforward. That's what you get with a sum. So for example, we could say the sum of 5 and 2. Okay, if we said the sum of 5 and 2, this means 5 plus 2, and our answer is 7. And you can see when I write these sums out, I'm always starting on a new line when I start with an equals. Okay, so as soon as I write an equals, I start on a new line. This is one of the things that we do in maths when we get to high school. Okay, we don't write things across the page anymore. We try and go down the page. Okay, so this is what we mean when we say sum. If I said the sum of 5 and 2, that just means 5 plus 2. Okay, pretty easy. Difference. Okay, the difference is what you get when you subtract things or when you minus them. So this is the same as subtract or minus. Okay, the first one was the same as adding or plus. Okay, so difference means subtracting or minusing. So for example, if I go the difference of 5 and 2, this means that we have 5 minus 2. Okay, or we subtract 2 from 5. So we can say this in two ways. We can say 5 minus 2, or we can say subtract 2 from 5. Okay, or the difference of 5 and 2. And what we get here, 5 minus 2 is equal to 3. Okay, so that one's also pretty easy, very straightforward. We're now getting up to the slightly harder ones. Okay, they're not really hard, but they're a little bit more different. And the next one is what we call the product. Okay, and when we look at product, what we are talking about is multiplying. So multiply or times. Okay, and we can say the product of 2 or of 5 and 2. Okay, and that is equal to 5 times 2. And what you'll see here is that instead of using the times that you're used to, you would have usually seen it like this. Now that we're in high school, we write it with this little dot here. This is called a multiplication dot. Okay, so this is a multiplication dot. And we're going to use that in high school instead of using that multiply symbol. Okay, so we have 5 times 2, or 5 multiplied by 2, and the answer to that is therefore 10. Okay, so this is what we do when we see product. Now, we have here these numbers 5 and 2. Because they multiply to give 10, these are factors of 10. Okay, so factors of 10 are 5 and 2. Okay, you can probably come up with some other factors of 10. So we have 5 and 2. We also have 10 and 1. Okay, so these are all factors of 10. All right. The next thing we have is what we call quotient. And luckily these words are the same in English as in Dutch. So we have quotient, and quotient means to divide something. Okay, so if we look at the quotient of 5 and 2, okay, that means what we have is 5 divided by 2. Okay, and in this case that is 2.5. And you'll notice I use a fraction here for 2.5. I don't use a decimal. Again, now that we're in high school, we prefer that you keep a fraction instead of decimals, okay, because we know that a fraction is exact. Okay, so the answer is exact. Now, what you're also going to start seeing is that we write this a little bit different now in high school. Okay, so 5 divided by 2, we would normally write it like this, as 5 divided by 2. This line here is the same as dividing. Okay, and you know that 5 over 2 is the same as 2.5. So that line does division, okay? It's not just a fraction line, and that's going to be important later in the year as well. Okay, so these are all operations. These are the things that we're going to be doing to numbers. To begin with, this is just a nice, easy way of getting you used to maths in English. Okay, it's something a little bit different. You'll see some new words that you maybe didn't know. Okay, but just remember, difference is when you see subtract or minus. Okay, that's a minus symbol. If we have a sum, that is a plus. Okay, or that is addition. This is the sum here. Okay, if we're talking about the product, we are talking about multiplying or times. Okay, and you'll see that times symbol here. And if we're talking about quotient, that means divide. Okay, and you won't see the word quotient used very often. We don't use it a lot in maths. You will mostly see divide, but it's good for you to know the words. Okay. Do we need to do some examples? Yeah, maybe. I think actually we've already done enough examples for this one. You can see how the words work, so I think that's good. Okay.